Hey, I'm back from my summer vacation, meaning that I'm once again crafting new videos and new articles for you guys, and I decided to start it with something truly extraordinarily sounding with this guy, the Gustard X30, which goes for 3,000 US dollars. While far from being affordable, it rocks several design choices on the inside which I never seen so far. And in the later stages of this review, I'll also be comparing this one with its predecessor, X26 Pro, and with the flavor of the month DAC with the live harmony. So let's break it down step by step. Design-wise, starting with 826, I believe, Gustard adopted a symmetrical design that you can see also on the X30, and they finally understood that high-end DACs can be seen as modern furniture by our beloved, so they started putting more accent on the looks of their devices. X30 is basically a monumental step forward in every possible way. The whole front panel is covered by tempered glass. We have just a single on-off button that has the shape of the Gustard logo. Once long pressed, you can see several touch controls appearing on the screen. Also, you can control this one with the included remote control, and this is the only thing which I don't like about this unit. It's plasticky, it's lo-fi, it's not that impressive, and it's the one that I would change if I would be Gustard, because X30 needs a more serious remote control in my opinion. The case is obviously machined from solid aluminum. The front panel is very thick, and overall all the panels are very thick, and it feels really well made and a true solid looking unit. The same high quality fit present on the 26 series are here as well, and overall, except for the plastic remote control, everything else is up there with some of the nicest units that I have tried. Moving on to controls, we have easy to access touch buttons on its front panel. We also have a remote control in case you are using this one in a stereo setup, so you can control this one pretty easily. It doesn't have a complicated UI, it's very simple. We have just 9 steps and everything is really straightforward. Now, flip this beauty around and you'll get every possible digital input, including 2 I2S inputs and an Ethernet port that will unlock its wired streamer. The Ethernet input supports Apple's AirPlay, UPnP, and you can also use it as a Roon endpoint, something that I've been using for a few days now. The usual RCA and XLR outputs are present, and those are fixed or not, so it can be used as a passive preamplifier if you please. Under its hood is where most of the magic happens. Now, as I have mentioned multiple times by now, a flagship ESS Sabre silicone like ES9039 Pro that is sitting inside, like ES9038 Pro, can be used differently. So you can use it in 8-channel mode, basically paralleling to channels for a balanced output with a slightly better signal-to-noise ratio. You can use it in 4-channel mode or in balanced mode. You can use it in 2 channels, so basically stereo mode or single-ended output, or you can use it in mono mode for the very best signal-to-noise ratio and for the very best dynamic range. The only problem with quad mono designs like this one is that you need 4 actual physical DAC chips and at least twice the numbers of components for its current voltage conversion stage, for the output stage, and you also need to build 4 signal paths, and that's exactly what Gustard did with this one. So this is why it's so much bigger compared to anything that they have done before, compared to anything that Topping or SMSL has done before. And for me personally, this is the very first DAC that I'm trying with 4 flagship ESS Sabre DACs in a single chassis. Now, can you see that huge gray box sticking out from the PCB? Well, that is the second most important part of this unit. That's an oven-controlled atomic crystal oscillator. So forget about the usual Cristex or Aquasilicones, because this is of a much higher quality. If you ever tried an ESS Sabre DAC before, there is a very big chance that your unit offers several digital filters, like 6 or 7 for PCB material, but after trying them you soon realize that there is no difference whatsoever sound-wise in between them. Well, that is exactly what happens with the stock ESS Sabre digital filters, but Gustard developed their own, 3 of them more exactly, that make quite a substantial difference. We have the Vivid mode, which is clearer, faster and more impactful. Then comes Gentle, which slows down the pace a little. It prolongs the decay of the notes. And then we have Combined filter, which offers you the best of both worlds. Gustard didn't stop here and even offers a custom non-oversampling mode, which in a way mimics the sound of non-oversampling converters. At the current voltage conversion stage and then at the output stage, you can see a myriad of resistors, diodes and even transistors. So yeah, lots of discrete components have been used, something that you don't see that often nowadays. Last but not least, everything is powered by 2 linear transformers, one used for the digital section and one used for the analog section. An overkill voltage regulation stage is following, with a few voltage regulators mounted on heatsinks that lowered the working temperature of the X30. I can go on and on about how cool X30 is looking on the inside, and honestly, I don't remember seeing so many components in a DAC and so high quality components in a DAC costing $3,000 US. So as you can understand, my expectations are super high. Gustard X30 is not an affordable DAC if you compare it with the rest of their doings, but it can be considered affordable if you compare it with the titans of this industry. Now, it so happens that I own 2 of some of the best or some of the nicest sounding digital tonal converters that you can buy, the Core Dave and also Rockna Wave Dream Signature, which I don't plan on changing anytime soon. But considering Moore's law that no longer applies to modern technology, there is a very big chance that modern DACs, affordable modern DACs, might sound basically on the same level with very expensive DACs released a few years ago, like the Core Dave and the Rockna Wave Dream. Now, I'll say it right from the start that after testing this one for more than a week, it's exactly as transparent and exactly as detailed, resolving, and at least as impactful and fast sounding like the Core Dave. That is a bold statement, but my system was crafting in such a way that it will be showing me everything in terms of resolution, transparency, soundstage, transients, and that's exactly what I'm getting with the X30. If you think about it, a job of a DAC is to decode those zeros and ones into an analog signal, but without adding or subtracting anything. And if that's your main goal, I do believe that X30 will unearth everything there is to hear. And if you like hearing some, additional nuances from your tunes, then you should prepare some popcorn in advance because X30 will unearth everything there is to hear. In the back of my mind, however, I was thinking that X30 might inherit some of that edginess, some of that fake treble ringing that its predecessor had. Also, R26 was much smoother, much more organic sounding in the treble, even smoothed out a little bit, so I didn't know what to expect from X30. But after a few days of non-stop listening, I was still waiting for that moment to exclaim, "Aha, I found your Achilles heel." However, that wasn't the case, as X30 was never bright in the treble nor fake sounding in the mid-range. When people ask me for holographic sounding DACs for their stereos or out-of-head experiences for their Head-Fi battle stations, I'm usually recommending R2R ladder DACs. Please don't ask me why, but they certainly do things differently in this department when it comes to scale, note separation, depth, so on and so forth. When it comes to chip-based Delta Sigma oversampling DACs, you can make them such, big sounding, but you need to work much harder in a way. You need to have the lowest possible channel crosstalk. For the lowest possible channel crosstalk, you need to have 4 separate signal paths, and that's exactly what we have on the X30 with that quad mono design. So in much simple terms, I don't want to mess with your mind too much. This one is doing proper justice to live music, to classical music, to big orchestras. It's really impressive sounding in this department, even more so compared to, again, to that Chord Dave without the amp scaler. The biggest surprise came when I connected the same room server, the Rockna Wave DreamNet, to the Chord Dave, and immediately I felt that the size of the room was smaller. The sounds were no longer unhindered and free, but much more limited, and I felt that less air is traveling all around the room. So the Dave didn't quite live up to its name, and it was projecting a shyer, a flatter, and a smaller stereo image. X30, on the other hand, sounded exactly how a proper engineered DAC should perform: big, airy, and quite 3D. Can I move on without telling you about my favorite part? Of course I can't, so let's talk about transients and dynamics. Dynamics can be extremely important to some and barely possible, or just a piece of the puzzle for others. But for me, dynamics are bread and butter, and I'm always chasing for them because I'm finding my inner self. I'm feeling some emotions. I'm feeling great when dynamics are kicking in. So that's why I like to hear from my music. If I'm not getting crazy dynamics, usually I'm changing some amplifiers, some headphones, loudspeakers, because I want those dynamics in this room. The fun part is that with the X30, I don't need to do any last-minute adjustments. Even in gentle mode, it punches pretty hard in the bass. It really does justice to everything that has to do with transients and dynamics. I find it incredibly alive and organic and punchy and meaty sounding, more so compared to any other DAC that Gustard has made so far, even compared to that mighty sounding R26. Every DA converter will convert zeros and ones into sound waves, but not all of them are leaving the emotions untouched. Most of them are removing the magic and the part that puts goosebumps all over your body. Sadly, below a certain price point, it's only about technicalities, but not so much about what makes you return to your music collection. In time, Gustard learned their lesson the hard way, so going from X16 to X26 Pro felt like hearing the bass guitar for the first time, or like the drummer is just having a nervous breakdown on his drum kit, and you are hearing so much more energy coming from those drumsticks. It's basically the same thing when coming from X26 Pro to X30. It simply puts the energy back into the music. All those toppings, all those SMSLs, I'm sorry, I tried them all, but those cannot touch the amount of energy that X30 is putting back into the music. It's something else, and in this regard, it's up there with some of the nicest converters that I have tried in this regard. So in terms of transients, in terms of dynamics, easily a 10 out of 10. Let's agree that the most important part and basically the main job of a DAC is to provide as much information, as much resolution to the rest of the chain. And thanks to one particular website and to several manufacturers that pushed DAC measurements so hard, we can now have extremely resolving sounding units without paying top dollar for such converters. Even from Gustard portfolio, we have X16, X18, which are incredibly resolving, and many others are providing affordable sounding DACs, which are very clean sounding to their core. However, can all of those affordable converters unearth the smallest intricacies while sounding close to the real thing, while making me stand on the cloud and just enjoy the music? Well, that's the tricky part, that is the hard part, because from many converters that I have tried around here, very few sounded real, organic, planting plenty of life into the music. That's why you need to pay a top dollar for expensive DACs that can sound organic and real and so on. It's one thing getting a highly resolving but ultimately dry and boring sounding DAC, and it's something else getting the same resolution but in a more lively, engaging and organic way. Once I heard that Wave Dream signature, I simply couldn't go back to anything else that I had on my table. So that's why I purchased this one, and I'm very happy with that one, even if it's extremely expensive. While we're still dealing with an oversampling Delta Sigma DAC, which is the X30, don't forget that we have custom digital filters, we have a non-oversampling mode, and once you engage those, it will no longer sound like a Delta Sigma DAC or like an ESS Sabre DAC, but more like a very technical R2R ladder DAC. And it's a very rare thing to call an ESS Sabre DAC as organic and as natural or real sounding, but X30 is that kind of breed. So this one is actually very different. It browses through aggressive music with such ease that I feel system matching is no longer a concern. When it comes to frequency response, X26, A26 and R26 were bringing the thunder in the bass. I'm not a bass head by any means, but still I need to try some bass intensity tracks because high performance DAC should cover the frequency response in full, not only when it comes to, frequency response as a measurement, but also as energy, cleanness, and so on and so forth. So this one provides pretty much as much information or tightness and control in the bass, but I do believe it provides a longer sustain and slightly more energy in the bass. You can feel the force between each bass note, and even the trebles feel a little bit revitalized in a way. So if you're coming from a tapping or SMSL DAC, the change will be immediate and the change will be quite big. The very first thought is that it provides more bass, but no, my flagship converters are sounding very similar in the bass. So yes, this is a very impressive sounding unit in the bass region, and also while taking care of its core skills: effortlessness, control, definition, and cleanliness. From the entire Gustard portfolio, I believe that only 2 units could plant some life back into music, and that was A26 and R26, but the later was doing that a little bit better. X26 Pro was not bad by any means. It was fine by me, it was fine by many others, but it was not making the mid-range organic or sweet sounding. It was quite linear, but it had that good linearity in a way, so it was not exactly dry sounding. In this regard, I believe that X30 is much closer to R26 than it is to A26 and X26 Pro. While this is not an R2R ladder DAC, don't forget that we have custom digital filters and also that nose mode, so it doesn't sound like your regular ESS Sabre DAC. There is plenty of meat on the bone in the mid-range, and also the rendition of the human voice is so natural in a way. It's not only about the frequency response that you are reaching or how loud you can maintain that SPL, but it's also about small intricacies like gutturalness and emotion that you are getting from that voice, and X30 can do that pretty easily. With the right gear and with the right mood, you can feel with the X30 that the soloist is basically entering your room and is whispering in your ear. So in terms of mid-range, this is a very good sounding DAC. Sometimes people associate a highly polished treble with listening fatigue, or worse, with brightness or with glare, digitus, so on and so forth. I beg to differ because the highest resolving sounding converters were not just highly resolving, but were just real sounding, and there is quite a big difference between highly resolving and real sounding. Like, you no longer care about this part anymore. This is how those 2 converters that I bought are sounding to me. So in this regard, I believe that X30 provides as much information as you want in the treble. You can hear basically anything, but all of that is not bothering you. You can listen to metal tunes all day long. As a small comparison, X26 Pro is extremely potent in here in the treble, but X30 is basically identical while sounding more effortless, easier going in a treble. You can digest, treble intensity tracks easier with X30. I can listen to 1 hour, maybe 2 hours of Metallica on X26 Pro, but I can listen to all their albums on X30 on repeat, and that wouldn't be a problem. The word effortless always comes around when describing the X30, not only in terms of treble delivery or frequency response or dynamics or trance and so on and so forth, just always I'm thinking about this word because the music is just pouring so easily and it's so unrestrained, it's so free in a way, it's so easy to listen to anything basically. This is what makes it so much different compared to X26 Pro, so it's not just a small upgrade, it's quite a big upgrade in my humble opinion. Before I move on to my conclusions, I just want to remind you that you can find a much longer in-depth review for X30 made by yours truly in the link below, so please check that out. You can also find in there a must-read comparison with its predecessor X26 Pro and also with the DAC of the month Live Harmony DAC. Everything is on chapter 9 and it's ready to be explored. Now into my conclusions. First and foremost, I want to say that these are my honest and unbiased impressions about the X30 versus my very own DACs and also versus some of the loaner units that we have around here. I say we because Sound News is not a solo mission. We are 3 writers and a single videographer, this guy right here. And if you want to know more about us, I do recommend checking out our website where we're pouring lots of love, lots of cool stuff. And if you want to support us, you only need to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Now, the fact that Gustard X30 held its own versus pricier converters should tell you how high the fight rages on. In 2 weeks' time, it has been used with several amplifiers, several headphones, and with 2 pairs of loudspeakers, and in all of this period I didn't feel the presence of the notorious ESS Saber glare. It's not there anymore, and at this point X30 is blurring the line between oversampling and non-oversampling DACs, Delta Sigma and Art wireless DACs, somehow combining the best of all of these technologies but without bringing any of those minuses. All in all, it will remain the quintessential DAC to beat at $3,000 for quite a while. This is what my guts are telling. Okay guys, this is all for now. My name is Sando and I'll see you very soon. Cheers!